Hello everyone. Before today's episode, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you about PowerHourPod.com. With the NFL season around the corner, NFL DFS is back. NFL DFS is a different way of playing fantasy football. As a subscriber of PHP last year, I cannot be more happy about my growth as a DFS player. Last year, we have premium content such as articles, podcasts, and a Slack channel to help us break down each and every single slate that's offered on DraftKings and FanDuel. This year, PHP is dedicated to become even better with added tools. We have tools such as the wide receiver cornerback matchups, where you can quickly break down where your wide receiver would line up, where the cornerback would line up, and exploit the matchups that are available from week to week. We also have an injury tool which will let us know if a player is in and out of the lineup, how it would affect the team as a whole, and how it will affect your preparations in lineup building constructions. If you are interested in subscribing, use my promo code FFDynasty101 to get $10 off your subscription. Once you're subscribed and become part of the family, there are tons more discounts being given to you for other sports as well as postseason NFL. Don't miss this opportunity now. Join the team and become a better DFS player. And welcome to a new episode of a Dynasty Mind. My name is Chris Chung. Today I'm finally back on my solo show, and would have to tell you that this actually is my last show for the 2018 season. This is planned. I typically don't do many contents during the season because all throughout the off season I'm hoping to have you prepared, have you thinking, and it gets kind of busy as well during the season to get guests on, for myself to even set outside time because I want to be delving in. I want to be just like you guys, to be focusing on every single news that I can that I find important, and build my dynasty team. And just it's exciting. The team is coming together, the season's coming along, all the fruits that we put together is finally coming to fruition, and we just concluded preseason week 3. Preseason week 4 has some value, have some merit to it. I don't know how much stock you can put into it as far as impacts or implications for the 2018 season, but it definitely has something for you to file away. Some people, some players you want to pay attention to, some who are fighting for their last spot on the roster who may become a starter one day. We have already seen some players who missed time during the camp, during training camp, and preseason week 4 might be the time for them to show that they are able to play, maybe get them knock some rust off. We probably won't see these players have much impact between September and October, but remember those names for November, December, and maybe beyond. The next week's waiver wire might be next year's first round trade, and as exciting as that sounds, it typically means more so a third round or fourth round value. But it's an asset that you can find for free on the waiver wire, or make it a throw-in if it's already owned by someone, and then wait for it to grow. Have some patience. So this final episode, I would like to take some time to kind of do a little review of all the great people that I had on this past off season, and they've been wonderful to help me shape my process. And the important thing to remember when talking to people, when trying to hone your process, is that you don't have to agree with everything that's being said, but you definitely need to listen, consider it, think on it, see how it fits or doesn't fit for you, why doesn't it fit, and after making all those decisions, you arrive to a conclusion as to how you want to incorporate, to what degree you want to incorporate their processes, and how you want to modify it and how you want to make it your own. So I want to tell you about Matt Wallman, my first ever guest for Dynasty Mind, a man who hammers the idea of process and paying attention to how you build your team comes from your mind, through your eyes, your observation, your ears. He mentioned in the very beginning, the NFL is changing game. We know that running backs are maybe a little de-emphasized, the running game, not so much running backs. Excuse my language. The running game may be a little bit de-emphasized, and there's way more passing in the league right now, and we see that in the yearly numbers. Yearly after year, we see the numbers kind of being inflated in a passing game, but that doesn't mean that running backs are useless or worth less. They just change the way that they are preparing for the week. They're changing the way that they're being used. And that brings in that we have to pay attention to how colleges, because a lot of these players have very little experience. I wouldn't say little, but a majority of colleges don't run the pro style anymore. So they're coming in, think about it as an intern. You didn't have that experience in college of a real life work, the 8 to 5 work. You are very much going into your internship where you have certain limitations of how much they can work you to death. Maybe for some it's different, but for myself, I can say that the internship pales in comparison to what the real life work look like. The scheduling, the paying of the attention to details, how you perform at your job when you're an intern status differs so much than when you're a full-time worker. So those are similar kind of ideas where we're bringing into the NFL season, where a lot of these kids are in a spread system. They're learning less being under center. And that doesn't mean that the game will completely change to a college system. But we have to know that the college game, the college scheming is making an influence. If it's not a big part of the playbook, it is definitely a factored in, and you're going to see it being run. You're going to see the spread being run more often. You're going to see more option games. You're going to see more trick plays, and that makes for an exciting product. I have to say I do miss a little bit of the old school style, because it definitely seems more autonomy given to the quarterback and the players to make plays, instead of overly relying on schemes to open it up. But at the end of the day, what we want is data, what we want is stats, what we want is fantasy scores. So pay attention to that. Even if you're not an avid college player and college watcher, take some time to watch the highlights, watch ESPN. What are the names that are popping up week after week? You don't have to sit down and watch a full game. I know Saturday is a very full day of game. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for my University of Miami this season. And that helps me focus on what the ACC is happening, what's happening in Florida. So that helps. And I don't have to pay attention to everything else, because I know by off-season I will have some amazing people who will provide me those contents. Matt will provide me those content. The people at Dynasty Dynasty Factory, like LJ and Franchise, those people will provide me with their insight. Gridiron Scholar as well. They'll provide me with those insight as to which college players I need to pay more attention to, which I haven't heard of, especially when it comes to games that I don't get to watch, like the Pac-12, because of time difference. So those are some kind of things you can pay attention to and start incorporating into your daily lives. It doesn't need to be a major change. I'm not asking you to break down the player. I'm not asking you to, watch every single game, sit down and pay attention every single week. But listen, peel your ears, go through Twitter. You'll see some names repeating, and then you file them away, and come next off season, you'll have a better chance than a lot of people, a lot of peers who don't even pay attention to the college game and college names. With that said, I also like to talk about in terms of pass catching running backs, which Elliot brought up in our first time talking. When I mentioned that the college game has changed, the league has turned more into a passing league, you see that running backs are required to catch a ball, but not only catch a ball, they have to run routes. So there is a distinction made between running backs who can catch and can play like a wide receiver versus a running back who is just there as a dump-off option. The ones that will make a bigger impact in a standard versus a PPR scoring, or perhaps if you're looking for players who will have limited work role but is bigger part of the passing games, those are the running backs. Those are the likely running backs that you can acquire through trades, that you can acquire through waiver wire, more so than the studs, right? You know how hard it is to pay for Ezekiel Elliott, how hard it is to pay for Le'Veon Bell, or how hard it is to pay for, Todd Gurley. But if you're looking at Chris Thompson, Duke Johnson, and a lot more names will pop up this year, peel your eyes, pay attention. There's Jalen Samuels that I'm paying attention to. There's Chase Edmonds, John Connor. All these names are less likely to be drafted in redrafts and may not command a high price tag in Dynasty, you may get some owners who are like, oh, I like this guy, I don't want to part with him for, the price that I got him from, and that's very understandable. But if you are willing to pay a little bit more, bump it up. If he's not willing to sell him for a third, offer a second and ask for a Chase Edmonds plus a future third, a future pick, or 2 players. Try something like that. And I think those are the ways to acquire these limited work role running backs, but who have a great presence in the passing game. Now, all the names I list off are not all running backs that are great in the passing game, but there are some people that I'm paying attention to. So you have to figure out who those real pass catching, receiving backs, okay? Not dump off options. Tariq Cohen is a receiving back. Not so much when it comes to, say, a Christine Michael. He's a dump off option more so than, more often than not, he's more just a dump off option, We're moving on. Another great guest that I had on included the Gridiron Scholar, who is paying attention since the college games. He'll notice the influences of players of the game in college and how that translates to the NFL. But he's also diving deep into the measurables. And this is an episode that you want to listen to, is where John Lobb can break down the draft stocks, film evaluation. And we have Travis May, who has shown us how the perfect, or at least I consider the perfect marriage between using statistics, using data to marry with film evaluation. We have Bobby Koch, who has come to tell us about how to identify the sleepers, along with Liz Loza, who knows to pay attention to what are some of the biases, recency biases that players just are bringing in with them. In May, June, July, people will hammer the motto, talent will win, be patient. But when it comes to August, when we see real life games, you'll see a lot of players just throw away those convictions, throw away those principles, and those are the type of people you want to take advantage of. They make these big proclamation of how they're going to be patient, how they know it's not going to be a sprint but more of a marathon. But once they see the film, you see how quickly they change their mind and how quickly they forgot about a player, especially players who are injured. Darius Geis is a name to watch out for. Will he or won't he be valued more or less than David Montgomery, for example, next year? Will people prefer N'Keal Harry over Darius Geis next year? Those are some of the thoughts you can already be thinking about. And know that, is my first round pick likely to be the 101? If it's not, why not throw it in and try to grab Darius Geis? His injury doesn't scare me right now. ACL recovery, everyone has already mentioned. ACL recovery is becoming less debilitating. The injuries that I am afraid of are Achilles injuries, are nagging hamstring injuries, Liz Franks. All of those who are very nagging can make a player ineffective. But ACL, we see the new better medical care, better medical systems right now, and recovery is just a matter of testing it out, feeling comfortable about it. We see that Dalvin Cook looks great coming back from his ACL. We don't have any evidence of Allen Robinson coming back from ACL, and we're still, if you listen to the ESPN Fantasy Focus today, Stefania Bell said she is a bit concerned that Allen Robinson didn't test it out at all during the preseason, and now he's going into week 1. We see the Eagles being cautious with Carson Wentz with the ACL injury, but it doesn't mean that he's out for the season or that he's any less effective. He's still being drafted very highly, and people know that ACL are not as debilitating or not as big of a issue when it comes to recovery anymore. So yes, go ahead and grab Darius Geis. With that said, we have different names. Andrew Kozak from Dynasty 101 HQ, a good friend of mine. We've discussed what you need to do, how you need to prepare for the season when you're being hit by these injuries, when you're hit by busts, when you're hit by players who might get suspended. What do? There are a lot of options for you, and you don't need to panic. go look at the episode and find out what we talked about. And then we circle around back to Elliot Christ, who came back to discuss the double dipping. People are continually doing the double dipping fallacy. I call it the double dipping fallacy. Mainly, they have this preconceived notion of how a player should suck, and then they get these information shown during the combine that yes, this player is likely not going to succeed. So you're already low on a player. Come game time, come preseason games, when you see that these things come to realization, what makes this person need to fall further down the value chart or your personal value? That's the double dipping fallacy. You're already down on a player, so and yes, you have confirmation about it. You don't need to further put the player in negative. On the opposite spectrum, it's the same thing. You have players who we're excited about. We hear all these great film evaluations. We hear that they have these great stats. Wow, they're drafted in the first round. Great. Now they're showing it in preseason. The value that you had you're excited about this player back in April, May, should not gain an additional boost in their value just because you see them doing it in the preseason, because those are just glimpses. You'll find yourself overpaying for a player sooner or later. The one that comes to mind right now for me is Royce Freeman. I love Royce Freeman. I've said it on Twitter. I will not draft him before round 6 in a dynasty startup. But that's because that's the value I had of him coming in. I am very high on him. Those are the the respect I give to a player who I think will be good, not elite, but good. And Royce Freeman was one of my players that I'm really, really like coming into the season. Thought his value was appropriate where he was being drafted, second round rookie drafts, 4th, 5th, 6th round in a dynasty startup. But now people are seeing all these highlight plays from Royce Freeman. They're wonderful. They're great. It's nothing that I haven't seen before, I haven't expected from him before, but people will give him the additional boost. You'll soon find yourself seeing Royce Freeman go ahead of all the other running backs that he's never been ahead of. And you'll see people revise their narrative and telling you, oh, I've always been high on Royce Freeman. His college tape is great. Well, if his college tape is great, in the same way I found that his college tape was indeed great, why do I need to add more value to him? He's the same person that I know, that I've seen, that I value. This is only an additional piece of data that confirms what I believe about him. I'm still excited about Royce Freeman. I just don't think he's worth the price right now that people are paying for him. An example is the tweet that I tweeted out where people are paying DJ Moore, Ronald Jones, and Marlon Mack just to get Royce Freeman. And my mind is blown. People are telling me, yeah, Ronald Jones sucks and DJ Moore hasn't shown up. I'm like, I have absolutely no qualms about what DJ Moore has shown. He's looked great. He's doing what I'm expected of from a rookie wide receiver, first round or not. Ronald Jones, yes, he has struggled, but come on, guys, it's a rookie. We have to be a little bit more patient. You preach patience, but no, you'll find people needing this immediate confirmation, immediate gratification, and was willing to downgrade Ronald Jones just to upgrade Royce Freeman. Rookies are assets that you should be patient about, and by patient about, I don't mean one season. You do need to continue to evaluate them. Some may not pan out, and that is fine, but that's my baseline for rookies. I don't expect rookies to be the contributors, first-year contributors. If they are, fantastic. If they aren't, my team is not destroyed just because they're not ready in week 1. This is how you get people panicking about Joe Mixon, who I like. People are liking him, or guys like John Ross. I am still high on him. I am willing to invest in him, and he's shown up right now. I think the buy window is slamming shut on me, so if I haven't gotten my share yet, it might be a little too late for me to buy him at a cost. We'll see. I'll tap into that a little bit more. So, in conclusion, there are some Twitter interactions that I have. I'm asking people what their thoughts are, and hopefully I can address it in this show. So let's. I got two. The first submission is from Fantasy Santa 1. He asked, "What are the thoughts on RB values in the 4th and 6th through 6th round in a dynasty?" So it's been a while since I looked up the ADP and how players are being drafted. So I went to Fantasy Calculator, and a lot of the names there in the 4th, 5th through 6th round seems to be the rookies. We have Penny, we have Michelle, we have Ronald Jones, Chubb. So I don't have a problem with those. I think those are appropriate values. It's a tad bit higher than previous years what I'm expecting from first-year rookies. People are high on them, and perhaps the talent and the expectations and all those do excite me about them. I think they have a good role going forward, and the old guards are going to fade away sooner or later. But at those values, I'm also looking at guys like Dion Lewis. I'm also looking at Tevin Coleman, Kenyon Drake. These guys are still young. Maybe not so much Dion Lewis. I don't know what his age is. I don't think he's that old yet. So they still have some years left. They have the experience. I value the experience and the comfort and knowing the role they have in the offense. But that's not to say I don't like the rookies. I do think they're a tad bit pricey. But if this is the ADP that holds, then I want the bottom of the tier rookies. We have Chubb, we have Ronald Jones, we have Kerryon Johnson, which is surprising to me. Why Kerryon? Well, perhaps because he's in an RBBC situation. But these three, I'd rather have in those 4 through 6 rounds than a Penny, than paying for a Freeman, than paying for Sony Michel. So that's kind of what my thoughts are. I will take Drake. I will take Tevin Coleman over Penny. I will take, Dion Lewis over Royce Freeman, believe it or not. Second Twitter submission is from Super Duper Flex. His question or his thoughts are that year after year there is this big expectation of rookies overtaking the veterans. We've seen last year people were expecting Joe Mixon to be the guy and taking over the slow and kind of useless Jeremy Hill. I wouldn't say useless, I'm sorry. But Jeremy Hill. Now, sort of worked out, but most of the part you weren't happy with the output that Joe Mixon gave you, and Jeremy Hill was still, I didn't think he was any productive. The whole Bengals offense was awful. That's one thing you have to pay attention to. If a whole team's offense is awful, you can't expect too much production from them. But we also expected Dalvin Cook, who was on his way to replace the veteran, but unfortunate injury had happened to him, and that caused Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray to have a split role. So it can happen, but we're also need to be open to the idea that your rookies may not pan out and that you have to have a plan. Your rookie, it should be your backup plan. You know what I'm saying? Your rookie shouldn't be counted on to be the main core of your starting lineup from week after week. You treat them as a matchup play. You treat them as a depth. That's how you build your team. You don't build your team relying on rookies to be the core. They are a great addition, and when they work out, when they pan out, when they prove to you that they can be that week-to-week contributor, now you have extra assets to sell off. Maybe your starter is still producing at a good level, but you are seeing that his values may be dipping sooner or later, and that's great time to trade and get bolster yourself in other areas. So those are some of the thoughts that I have from the Twitter verse. I hope that answers some of your questions or some of your thoughts. The 2018 season is 2 weeks away. I'm super excited, guys, and I can't tell you how happy I am to have football again, to be able to discuss football. Now, just because I don't have this show or that for this season doesn't mean that you can't communicate with me. I am super active on Twitter. I will continually be bantering. I will be sharing to you about the Scott Fish Bowl I will be talking to you about all the great things that our new writers or our writers are producing right now. If you haven't heard, Fake Pigskin is now part of teaming up with DraftSite.com, and which this is an exciting event for us because DraftSite is one of those respectable, well-known websites out there who has focused on the draft, who has focused on the reality of football, and they saw the value in adding fantasy to their content. So we're teaming up with them. All our writers are putting up our rankings right now. The show should be up on our site. We're still under fakepigskin.com, so please visit our site, support our writers, show them some love, follow them on Twitter, ask them about questions. They're more than happy to help you out. I am more than happy to help you out. I will open my DMs now. And so to conclude, there won't be any more Dynasty content, Dynasty Mind content throughout the season. I hope to be back by next offseason, bringing you great minds again, helping you build processes, talking about processes, sharpening your processes. This is also a time for me to tell you that I will probably be stepping away from taking some time off from the producing Dynasty content. Other than the Dynasty Mind, I might. It's time for me to evaluate where I am at with this new job and that I have. So you might see me take down the Fake Pigskin logo. You might see me no longer be part of Fake Pigskin, and it's kind of a time for me to kind of reflect on. But again, I'm available on Twitter. I'm available to you to talk with, and we'll see you in 2019 then.